Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Ian with Out of This World Reader, and I've got another installment of Book Chats with Ian where we'll be discussing, or I will be discussing, another book that I recently got to. And the book on the chopping block today is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I didn't originally plan to do this video at all. I had just recently kind of like picked up Spinning Silver kind of like on a whim because it started snowing and I felt like that would be the perfect time to read this. And I just loved Spinning Silver so much that I just had to do a book chat for you guys. Like I mentioned, this was kind of like on a whim just because of the snow. It was between this or The Shining, and I just felt like for some reason after coming off reading The Mistborn, or the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, I wanted more fantasy, so I had to get to this one instead of The Shining. Other than that, like I really didn't know much about the book going into it, other than like Naomi Novik has produced a lot of other books, or made a lot of other books that I really want to check out in the future, like Uprooted, which I have, and the Temporary series, which involves dragons, so you know I'll be getting to that sometime. But other than that, like I had really no idea kind of going in. I just kind of had an idea, or had like heard that this is kind of like a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, which is a folktale that I've really never kind of learned about in school or just in stories that I've read, so I just thought I had to get to this one. This is following several different perspectives of different characters going through just really tough times. One of them, Miriam, her father and is kind of like the money lender of the town, the village kind of that they live in, and since they're Jewish, a lot of people in the village just really dislike them. And even though like her father is very lenient in kind of paying back the debts, she takes over because they're really struggling, and people just really hate their family for it. And it was kind of sad to see how they just really treated them. A couple more perspectives follow Wanda and Sergei and Stepan, which are all part of a family who constantly deal with abuse from their father after they lost their mother very young. And from there, they're kind of just, each day they're not knowing whether they're going to eat or like have enough to just live. And then on top of that, their father just abuses them, and you really feel for them. And another one of the main point of views is through Irina, who is kind of down on luck a little bit. Her father is really just kind of trying to get rid of her somehow, but her dowry for kind of pawning her off is not worth it to a lot of the other kind of higher up in this kind of community, or just the world that they kind of live in. And so she's really treated poorly from her father and her stepmom. They kind of view her as ugly, and they constantly tell her that, and she's kind of just cast away to the side and just looked upon very poorly. But from there, things kind of just unfold, and Miriam is then introduced to the Styarch. I hope I'm saying that right. And the plot just unfolds from there. Like you really just are thrown into the gauntlet, essentially. Like you're kind of explained the background, and then it just takes off. And from there, you just really can't put the book down. Especially, I felt that I couldn't put it down because with the snow, like it just felt like the right time, and the atmosphere just made it so much better to enjoy. Like I mentioned, you really feel for these characters in the beginning, especially, and then just throughout the story. Like one thing I'll mention is like with Wanda, when she kind of comes in contact with Miriam after her father can't pay back the debt, so instead Wanda agrees to, or she's kind of forced to work for Miriam and her family, and she's just glad that she has this opportunity to kind of be able to eat and just not be abused as much. And that really just kind of hurts your heart a little bit to just hear and read about just wanting to kind of just work for not like no money or anything, just to be able to have some safety and security and food. Like it was heartbreaking to read about, especially for those three, Wanda, Sergei, and Stepan, but just all of them. You really feel for them. This has a very Eastern European setting and concepts. There's czars and czarinas, and that was interesting to me because I've never really read anything involving Eastern Europe, and I can say that after kind of reading this, I've been looking into kind of just living in Europe in general for some reason. Like, I don't know why. Just after reading this, I just felt like I need to move there now. And then you get a little bit of the Stark Kingdom, and to me that just seemed like something straight out of Frozen, if you know what I'm talking about, like some Olaf stuff going on here. But they lived in kind of like this just clear mountain, and just to visualize that, just like complete wonderland, winter wonderland, and then to have the snow outside, like I could just perfectly visualize that. So I would definitely recommend, if you're gonna pick this book up, just maybe wait till winter, or especially if it's snowing, because it'll just make your enjoyment of the book just top notch, if you know what I mean. I thought it was interesting how the Stark kind of played out their lives. They kind of work in this way that they won't take on anything unless they'll be able to pay back somehow. And that's one of the reasons that the interactions between Miriam and the Stark King is so interesting, because he won't do anything for her unless she kind of, or he won't do anything for her unless he'll be able to pay back for it somehow. So it was kind of interesting how debt and kind of gratitude kind of combined and played together for those people. And then you have the fact that they kind of ride around these knights that they have, just ride around on these kind of giant reindeer that have got like fangs and like claws. So I thought that was kind of cool to kind of get that different feel, like, because when I first visualized this, I saw like something out of kind of The Hobbit in the Battle of the Five Armies, the giant reindeer thing that kind of the elf kind of rode on. I thought that, but then the fact that they had fangs and everything, that was kind of, it was something different. I can say overall, even though that these characters just go through unbearable things to just read about, like it was truly heartwarming, because each chapter brought like a new obstacle or just some setback of some kind, and instead of kind of like getting down on themselves, they kind of just pick themselves up, and against all odds they find a way. And just especially when the past that they've gone through, like you would think it would be tough, and it was tough for them to kind of continue on, but they just did. And you just feel like throughout, especially going through like the whole chunk of the book, you're just like, you can't believe that there's going to be a good ending somehow. But I'll tell you, you got to stick it out, because the ending will just hit you in the feels, like legit. I was like, I don't cry very often in books, and just at the end, I won't spoil anything, but just at the end I was just bawling, because this almost kind of found family between just a different, I'm not going to go into it because of the little spoilers, and I don't want to do any of that, but just stick it out, because you won't regret it. Kind of my final thoughts on the book is, I ended up giving this 4.5 stars, and that was because I felt like just a little bit in the middle of the book, it felt like it was dragging on a little bit, but it was definitely necessary, because it was explaining the background a little bit, and just more of the story and plot line in general. So it was definitely necessary, and it didn't last that long. It really it was hard to put down, like I said, like it was zoop zoop, and it just kept going. But this has become like one of my new all-time favorites. Like, I definitely want to tell like a different version of this to my kids, so hopefully someday. Because I mean, initially, like, I didn't plan to like this book at all, especially coming off The Well of Ascensions. Like, that was a big book, and I was dreading picking up another big book, like another big fantasy book. But as soon as I got into it, like, my mind was just blown, because I don't know why. If it was maybe the snow kind of impacted it, but it just it's just, I'm lost for words to kind of explain how much I kind of love this story. That being said, I'm definitely going to be checking out Uprooted soon, but I've heard that that one isn't good as this one, but I feel like I can trust Naomi Novik now, especially since kind of how much I love this book. But overall, I would definitely recommend this to you. Just if you're looking for just like a heartwarming fantasy book that involves kind of like tough times, which are tough to read about, but it's got like found family and trust, gratitude. It's just got it all. And so just please pick it up for me, especially like I said, if you're going to pick it up winter maybe, or if snow. But I mean, you could read this at any time and just enjoy it. I feel like that would happen because I mean, to be honest, I kind of want to reread it in the summer and see how I feel, like if I feel the same about it. This has been another installment of Book Chats with Ian involving the great Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Please don't forget to check out my social media for other bookish content coming out soon. I'll make sure to leave links to other videos that I definitely recommend you check out as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on another adventure. And as Ellie always says, adventure is out there, so I'm gonna catch you next time. Thanks.